Na. Good afternoon. Thank you for creating time for us. You are in time for the latest update. This is KBC. You're watching the Lunchtime News. My name is Irene Mchuma Udim. On sign language interpretation, we have Ann Wangeshi. Let's interact on all our social media platforms at KBC Channel 1. We begin from the county of Kiambu, where a building collapsed at the wee hours. My colleague Teresa Mtai is on the ground. Tess, good afternoon. I understand you've been there since early morning hours, and what I do understand too is that the building was being occupied by at least 200 people before they were told to vacate, since there were signs that it's coming down. Tess, what is the latest update from your end?
Well, hello there, Irene Muchuma. Yes, we've been here since morning. This building we are coming to you live from Ruiru, Kiambu County, where yet another building has collapsed again, third one in a row after Kasarani and Ruaka. Yes, so we've been here since morning. The building did collapse in the morning. Yesterday, there was signs of the building collapsing, and people were given 45 minutes to evacuate. So now this means they didn't have a chance to actually take out their belongings. And if you can see from my end, this other side, it is completely evacuated. The entire area has been barricaded to the other side, where now KPLC has also responded, because now they had to take time before they start removing the rubble. But now their concern was that there was still power in that electric lines. So now it is being removed so that it can give them a chance to evacuate, to start removing the rubbles. But now the residents are just concerned that their belongings that they left, they do not know whether it's going to be compensated. We don't know the way forward. So now we are joined by one of the residents who will be just kindly, he will be giving us his name and telling us about what happened and briefing us on what the governor of Kiambu, that is Wamatangi, the brief he gave them on their view on it.
My name is Rishit Karania. We have a shop over here called Top Star Distributors Limited. our shop was full with goods, and we had got 45 minutes to start vacating. We had tried to remove one lorry, and another was just we were loading, but time was not enough. We have a lot of goods inside, household goods we are selling. So right now, the way we are seeing building has collapsed, I think our most of the goods has got damaged until we get authority from the government when we can go and see what kind of goods has left. I will say thank to governor because he had took a right decision on right time and saved a lot of lives because if he had not given these directives yesterday to vacate the premises immediately, might be more than hundreds of people was died the way people were staying in the houses. Yeah.
Okay. And what are your concerns?
My concerns is my goods remaining. I don't know who will compensate landlord. Obviously I can claim from the landlord because it's he should have to understand. And okay, when building was getting weak, we had informed landlord, and he said that he will take necessary measurements to repair the building. But unfortunately, there was no enough time to repair the building.
Well, there you have it from the residents themselves. There was no time to evacuate, but now we'll see on the way forward what will become of this entire scenario. Back to you in studio, Irene Muchuma.
Thank you, Teresa Mutai, reporting live from Ruiru in the county of Kiambu, where a building collapsed at the wee hours. A section of residents raising their concerns on the issue that affected their livelihoods. Now, to other news, we move to the county hall, where a health committee is meeting health workers union, and this as they submit medical negligence reports where they complain of patients not being handled properly at the public health facilities. We'll have details on that later. We have able team on the ground, and also will be crossing over live when my colleague advises us to do so. In other news, an archbishop averted a clash between the faithful and a splinter group and proposed the establishment of mechanism to determine the disputed ownership of the church. Archbishop James Obunde of Church of God in East Africa, Kenya, who was on a visit to South Nyanza region at the same time, played down an incident in which members of the splinter group locked themselves in the church building upon arrival of his entourage.
The splinter group had taken up Nyamaroka Church of God in Kamureri sublocation in Migori County, shutting out their rivals. Area Assistant Chief Eddie Odhiambo refused to allow the Archbishop's team into the building, claiming it was put up by his family. Addressing the congregation within Nyamaroka Primary School grounds, Ombunde clarified that the church and school were registered under the Church of God in East Africa, Kenya.
Sisi hatuwezi kufocus kwa maneno ya kutupiana hapa na pale. Tuna focus kwa maneno ya kupeleka watu mbinguni. Tuna focus kwa maneno ya kujenga vijana.
He appealed to the members to be calm and assured them that the head office would resolve the ownership standoff.
Msikuwe na hofu. Mwagira atawaleta na tutajadili. Mtapata jawabu kamili kwa yale Mungu amejalia kufanyia kanisa letu. Kwa hivyo Mungu asidi kuwa pamoja na nyinyi. Apea mzee uhai kwa sababu nataka tushughulikiwe haraka kabla ya shindwa kutembea.
Mzee Odira, who donated the land, and the primary school's board of management chairman Jameson Miguna confirmed the church and the school was sponsored by the Church of God in East Africa, Kenya. Police officers had been deployed to maintain security. Trevor Ngendo for Lunchtime News.
Right, my colleague Ruth Wamboy says she is ready at the County Hall, and we're crossing over live. This as the Senate Committee on Health is receiving submission by health workers unions and associations on the rising cases of medical negligence of patients at public health facilities. Let's listen in.
Thank you. Okay. Thank you, Madam Chair. Once again, my name is George Gibore. I'm the General Secretary, Kenya Union of Clinical Officer. I have the chair with me. Will also be speaking, and at least one representative from the branch. Chair, we'll take the shortest time possible because we do not want to dwell in more of the chronology of what happened, because it has been more of highlighted. We want to point at the issues which attribute to that issues. I will probably, yes, in a summary way, Madam Chair. I want to say that as a Kenyan, despite being a healthcare worker, I seek services in the facility available for us. As a healthcare worker, I have worked at Kenyatta and I've worked at Mama Lucy, the two facilities at the center of this story. Under the Constitution of Kenya, Article 43, which guarantees us the right to the highest standard of health service, I want to appreciate that a good number of people who seek services in our public facility get it to their expectation. There are few, and a good percentage. I need to go back to the before devolution. We used to have close to 40% who are seeking services in the public sector. We are doing now above 60%. This is attributed to a number of things, and the indicators are there. Maybe if allowed, I can highlight. But having worked at Mama Lucy specifically, I want to say there are gaps existing. The gaps, without pointing at an individual or any professional, I want to say that the professional play a key role in the health service delivery. So to say, not just health service delivery, but quality service delivery. Fundamentally so is that they must be enabled. They must be supported to do so. How? By virtue of provision of enough funding in the health system, which enable other services, including expansion of the infrastructures and that support or provide for us to serve. As we look at it, and as it has been submitted, Mama Lucy do not have an ICU, not even just an ICU, but an ICU bed. I look at that scenario which has happened there, and I want to test here that in 2017, my wife was there delivering. And the situation which was there was dire because she was sharing bed. When some of them realized that this was one of our staff wife, yes, they were struggling to cover up because they wanted to create space. But the cover-up was leading to patient lying on the floor. That point out at capacity of that facility to serve the nurses there, healthcare workers. And I want to say that in this sector, more specifically the reproductive health, we have also the clinical officer who serves there, who are trained specialist clinical officer, and we only have 2 of them at Mama Lucy, one serving in the outpatient and one serving, so they cannot suffice to serve 24 hours a day and 7 days a week. So that point out at a gap of the staffing, as it has been also highlighted from the other cadre. To that extent, the enabler there still is funding, because the funding can be able to open for recruitment. And one will say this specific case, how it happened, to which context, whether it amounts to medical negligence, I will say, depending on where I sit, yes and no. Yes and no, why? Because one, if you look at it on what should have been done when this case was identified that it needed maybe an ICU, the best thing was to put the patient on ICU. And I look at the time also the healthcare workers need to take, or rather do the vital sign, that they were not able to do it. The attributing factor is that to some extent all the patients are shouting. It's not only about this one alone. All of them are calling. I've worked in the outpatient where some of them will get in and slap you because of taking too much time waiting. So to this extent, I ask, as a healthcare worker, in the context of that looking, I'm culpable. But am I real culpable or am I exposed by virtue of the system? So we have a system failure which must be looked into. Starting from what I have mentioned, the funding, the infrastructure, the health system, the healthcare workers, that is the health workforce. We point out to also now how this patient moved. All of them were referral. And it's good to mention in this context that Mama Lucy served as a referral facility for Nairobi. At what time does Mama Lucy need to refer a patient is something we need to look at. And I borrow the word of Boaz, who was speaking, that we need to relook whether Mama Lucy qualified to be a level 5. If not, is it really now the reason that we don't have enough staff, then we close the facility? Is there a patient who will suffer by virtue of lack of even a fare to move to next facility? Is there a patient who probably one of these days have been admitted there and they are appreciating the service they got by virtue of managing to access that facility? Will it serve the purpose? Question remain to be answered by virtue that, one,
Kenya Union of Clinical Officers Secretary General George Gibore there talking to members of parliament, telling the members of parliament the need to improve health facilities in the country. Ruth Wamboi is on that bit. Be sure to catch up with us in our subsequent bulletins. Now, to education concerns, education professionals have come together to explore areas of cooperation and discuss sector opportunities. In commemoration of the Global Education Week, BIC has launched the first edition of EduTalk, a roundtable on education in Kenya. The launch by the stationery company stems from the organization's commitment to improve learning conditions for learners across the country.
Education is said to be the biggest equalizer, but it is in improved learning conditions that children from all backgrounds get to reap the benefits of any education system. Guided by this, BIC, a world leader in stationery, has launched the first edition of EduTalk, a roundtable on education in Kenya. In commemoration of the Global Education Week, Michael Sinclair, the general manager at BIC East Africa, said the organization has expanded its support to create a platform for education professionals to discuss potential opportunities in the sector in Kenya.
One of the key drivers BIC has is we have a Global Education Week where we are looking to improve the learning conditions of 250 youth by the year 2025.
Sinclair saying the organization looks forward to hosting similar sessions with stakeholders in the sector to aid in building the industry.
The main message is I would make an appeal to other private companies to engage with the education sector. As a private company, we have an obligation to be involved. We can't put all the responsibility on the public sector to educate our youth.
On his part, Kennedy Odede, the founder and CEO of Shining Hope for Communities, SHOFCO, reiterating on the need to indiscriminately invest in all learners.
We need equality, right, for all. And we need the best educations for all. And I'm happy for companies like BIC, what they are doing already. Now they are giving prizes for the best teachers. So we need to do these small things that can really change.
Education-focused initiatives are key to Big in East Africa, including creative writing.
The ever-changing trends in female genital mutilation have seen activists change tact in addressing prevalence of the vice in Migori County. New strategies by the anti-FGM activists involve engaging the girls from the affected regions in person-centered communication. The person-centered communication for FGM prevention is designed to empower individuals, especially young girls and communities, to willingly abandon the practice. A study report released by UNICEF indicates at least 500,000 Kenyan girls are at risk of undergoing female genital mutilation between now and 2030 unless urgent action is taken to prevent the vice. Human rights activists are, however, changing tact in the fight against FGM. In Migori County, anti-FGM activists want the society to embrace person-centered communication in the fight against FGM. Through this method, the healthcare providers encourage the individual to explore the main reasons for supporting FGM and to reassess beliefs about the practice.
So what complications we're expecting if we don't say no, it hits back on us as healthcare providers. Mothers who come with complications at delivery, we are the ones to handle them as providers. Mothers who come or young girls who come with early pregnancies because of early FGM, early sex, then early marriage. So all this, it's a story of what is the root cause of all this. So I strongly condemn female genital mutilation.
The local activists under the umbrella of the Last Mile 4D, a non-profit organization, says health providers will enlighten the society on dangers of FGM on the girls and women alike. In Korea, Deputy County Commissioner Andrew Mwiti said his administration has increased border patrols to curb cross-border FGM. So far, a total of 2,500 girls from 10 schools in Migori County have been engaged, and another 500 girls from 5 schools in West Pokot County. This comes as the presidential decree to have FGM end by 2022 nears its deadline.
We have put our security agencies on high alert. But most importantly is that we are undertaking the sensitization to all those who are involved.
Glad you're watching the Lunchtime News. We are taking a breather. We'll be back with more news making headlines in the world of business and sports. Stay with us.
Do you have a news story to share with KBC? Get in touch swiftly on email news@kbc.co.ke or call 0723-892-654 or 0734-780-124.
To get Proverbs chapter 3 verse 5 as your skiza tune, dial star 811 star 967 hash.
Trust in the Lord with all your heart and lean not in your own understanding. In all your ways, submit to him, and he will make your path straight. Proverbs chapter 3, verse 5 to 6.
To get Proverbs chapter 3, verse 5, dial star 811 star 967 hash. Star 811 star 967 hash.
Hi, my name is Musa Otieno. Na ukumbuke FIFA World Cup 2022 iko hapa here in KBC na kuhitaji. Karibu.
Here's another good run. This time rounding off the goalkeeper. It's going to be a penalty. Well, for sure, because he chopped the striker. And it's lucky that it doesn't get out. Oh, Willie. Oh, he's going to get off with a yellow card. Yep. An easy chip, very cheeky, but into the net as Era Valencia opens the scores in Qatar. 15th minute goal, you could say 16th minute. And Ecuador go 1 goal ahead. An easy, very calm way of putting the ball into the net, Jacob. Oh, this was left very easily by Karim Boudiaf, who wanted to get a free kick for no reason. Here is a cross, the header, it's in the net! Again, it is Ena Valencia scores a brace in the opening match of the 2022 FIFA World Cup.
Thank you for staying with us. Welcome back. You're watching the Lunchtime News. Now, Naivasha Deputy OCPD Samuel Kiplong has lauded the joint cooperation between the police and members of the public, saying the move has seen crime levels go down. Speaking during a joint church service in Naivasha, Deputy OCPD further urged the local community, including the church, to work with the uniformed officers to boost security in the area.
It was a colorful Thanksgiving church service for all the uniformed officers in the lakeside town at St. Francis Xavier Catholic Church in Naivasha. Father John Maina, who conducted the mass, noted that uniformed officers in the country had done a lot despite working in difficult situations. He added that through their contribution, the level of insecurity cases have drastically reduced in the region.
Lakini pia polisi anaishi maisha magumu kwa sababu kama ni wakati wa accident polisi anaitwa. Mwizi akija kwako usiku unaita afisa wa polisi. Ukiwa umedhulumiwa, watu wakikosana zaidi, afisa wa polisi ni mpatanishi zaidi ya kuwa mlinzi. Ni mmoja wetu.
Naivasha Deputy OCPD Samuel Kiplong noted with the joint cooperation between the forces and the members of the public had seen crime levels go down. Sentiments echoed by Eskimos Kobia from Stager Security Services.
Katika kupigana na uhalifu katika Naivasha hii tuko imara kabisa. Uhalifu imeenda chini, sisi tumepigana na hiyo na tumeweza kuidumisha amani na uhalifu imeenda chini kiasi.
Sisi tunakuanga mashinani tukiangalia mambo ya security, tukisaidiwa na maofisa wetu. Wakati kitu imetokea ni sisi wa kwanza tunapatana kwa sababu tunalinda mahali mingi.
I'm a happy man seeing that the church, the police force can come together and the community in the goodness of the people of Naivasha. With this kind of initiative that has been started here at St. Francis Xavier, we find that the police and the people are coming together as a family.
During the ceremony, the officers together with their friends paid hospital bills for patients and donated foodstuff to feed starving families in Naivasha. Opicho Chemtai for Lunchtime News.
Hoteliers in Naivasha and the Kenya National Chambers of Commerce and Industry KNCCI now want the Salaries and Remuneration Commission SRC to review the daily subsistence allowance rates for civil servants working in Naivasha town. Speaking after launching a fresh campaign to have the town's status reviewed upwards, KNCCI lamented that the booking in the town had dropped to 20%. They say tens of workers might lose their jobs due to the unpopular move by SRC to review downwards the workers' per diem.
Or an increase in the electoral...
Led by the Naivasha Hoteliers Association chairperson Rahab Mwihaki, they say the move was unfair since it had locked tens of hoteliers out of business.
Na President Judah ametoka alikuwa amesema atabadilisha Naivasha iwe business hub ya conferencing. Na tukatoka na hii lobby tukakuja tukanunua mashamba hapa, tukajenga mahoteli. Sasa hizi mahoteli for now we are almost closing down.
She noted that Naivasha had over 10,000 rooms and was second to Mombasa in terms on conferencing, but currently only 1,000 rooms were occupied. Mwihaki questioned the rationale used by SRC to downgrade the town's status, yet it was part of Nakuru County.
Kwa hivyo mheshimiwa, hii kitu wekea maanani, ndio hii maneno ya kufungia ka town within a radius of 3 kilometers ati ndio ina benefit from per diem. That is not fair for us in Naivasha.
Naivasha Member of Parliament Jane Kihara, on the other hand, promised to raise the issue with the new CS for tourism, adding that Naivasha had the potential of being a resort city.
Ndikuwa nataka kumuuliza what advised it, ilitokea wapi? Ikawa sisi tuko Naivasha, which is in Nakuru, Nakuru inapeanwa per diem na Naivasha hakuna. Kwa hivyo sina jibu, ile kitu ninafanya ni kuuliza. Na nimeuliza hata huyu waziri ambaye tulichagua juzi, uliona nikimtetea mama, nilimwambia kuna kazi inakugojea, uturudishie per diem na Naivasha juu ya vijana wetu wale wanaajiriwa na hii mahoteli.
She termed the directive by the government that all meetings to be held in boardrooms as untenable, warning that this spelled doom for the hospitality industry. Early in the year, SRC gazetted new rates where Nakuru was ranked the Mombasa, Kisumu and Nairobi, while Naivasha fell in a lower cluster, meaning a lower per diem for government workers.
So we are requesting again the current government through the new structure to really return what was there before, so that we are on tier 1 when it comes to per diem.
Timothy Kipnoso for Lunchtime News.
Kakamega Water and Sanitation Company, Kakwasco, has rolled out an ambitious tree planting program in the county that also targets water sources and catchment areas. Acting CEO Christabel Ashiono announced that each year the company will carry out a tree planting exercise. Ashiono further said that the company is committed to support initiatives that will conserve the environment so as to counter the high chances of water sources drying up.
In order to sustain the supply of water, we have to conserve and protect the source. And that is why we are undertaking this initiative to plant trees in order to ensure that we sustain the source.
We are targeting most probably about 10,000 seedlings this financial year. And we will do most probably around 2,000 within our treatment setup. But then again, give about 8,000 trees to the community. We are largely focusing on indigenous trees and also the fruit trees, because these things must have value to the community.
Kajiado County Government has donated a 50-acre land to the Kenya Medical Training College, KMTC, to establish a new campus. According to the Kajiado County Government, the move will not only benefit local students pursuing medical courses, but also boost the status of the county. Andrew Okero has the details.
The Kenya Medical Training College, KMTC, will use the land to establish a new campus next to Kajiado Referral Hospital. The medical students are expected to earn expertise in the referral hospital as the internship center. Lands and Fiscal Planning CEC member Hamilton Pasena handed over the land's allotment letter to Oloitoktok KMTC campus principal Ronald Wasike at Kajiado headquarters.
We are very determined as a county government to have a county headquarters that is worth the name by bringing on board all government agencies. And there's nothing that grows the economy than an educational institution. We will be expecting that there will be intake, admission of thousands and thousands of students.
Healthy Services CEC member Alex Kilogua and Education CEC member Jeremiah Olencharo witnessed the handing over of the allotment letter.
It is going to be of great importance to not just the county, but specifically to our referral hospital and all other sub-county hospital.
Mpaka sasa tuko na wanafunzi 38 ambao wanamalizia KMTC ambao county ya Kajiado imeweza kuwapatia scholarships. Full scholarships ni sisi tunawasomesha na wanamaliza na wengine watachukuliwa mwezi wa 3.
The county government was lauded for dispensing their energy to promote the healthy episode in the county. Andrew Kero for Lunchtime News.
Narok First Lady Agnes Ntutu has begun a sensitization campaign on the need for proper sanitation by ensuring residents have toilets in their homesteads. Speaking at Endoinyo Narasha Primary School during the celebrations to mark World Toilet Day, Ntutu said the initiative seeks to reduce the burden of treating waterborne diseases in the county, which have been on the rise. Assistant County Commissioner in the area, Abdi Shakur Ali, said village elders and Nyumba Kumi representatives to champion the construction of toilets in their respective areas.
Vile tumeshafunzwa na madaktari na wale partners wetu, kila mtu tuende leo tufikirie tujenge vyoo. Tutakuja na hawa madaktari pamoja na chief. Hii maneno ni hatari, mpaka tujenge hizo vyoo kwetu.
Katika kijiji yako iko choo, kama iko choo kazi unawekwa na chief. Hiyo itakuwa challenge ya kwanza. Village elders najua mwaka ujao 2023 wataanza kulipa mshahara.
You're watching the Lunchtime News. Time for Channel 1 Business News. Cooperative Bank Group has contributed 150 million shillings to support relief efforts aimed at assisting families affected by the severe drought experienced in various parts of Kenya. Cooperative Bank Group CEO Gideon Muriuki is challenging organizations to be people-centered and implement sustainable business models in their pursuit of profits.
In his keynote address during the 37th graduation at International Leadership University, Cooperative Bank Group CEO Gideon Muriuki said building teams has driven the growth of the Tier 1 lender and success achieved during his 2-decade tenure to investing in people and teams. He says the team leaders in institutions are as strong as the team around them. Therefore, they should always be people-centered.
It is refreshing to know that International Leadership University is providing the nexus between ordinary leadership and Christ-centered leadership. As a leader, I have learned that investing in people and teams pays the best interest. As a leader, you are ultimately as strong as a team around you. Therefore, always keep people at the center.
He says his team at Cooperative Bank have been innovative and pioneered some of the financial products in use today, citing mobile banking that the lender pioneered way back in 2003, making it possible for customers to do bank transactions, balance inquiries, and paying of electricity bills directly from mobile phones.
CoBank fully embraces and nurtures a transformational culture that guides the way we relate with all our stakeholders. We believe that a transformation culture that is sustainable and inclusive is not in conflict with our business goals and pursuit of profit, rather they are complementary. We are proud to have built a culture that is both competitive and high-performing on one end, that is also purpose-driven and faith-led on the other.
The focus is not only on employees, but also to customers, partners, shareholders, and the society at large. Coop Bank has contributed 150 million shillings to support relief efforts aimed at assisting families affected by the severe drought experienced in various parts of Kenya.
In the wake of growing cases of buildings collapsing, the government plans to step up surveillance targeted to net rogue developers. And as Alan Aoko narrates, about 80% of buildings in Kenya are built without engaging professionals.
So far, the government has in the last 3 months inspected over 300 buildings in Nairobi. The Ministry of Public Works says for now already 90 buildings have been marked unsafe for occupation in Nairobi. In the wake of increased cases of building collapsing, Kenyans are being encouraged to report suspicious building activities in their neighborhoods.
If you are neighboring a building that is already marked and is safe, and you see somebody building, it's your life also. Yeah, go to the chief, go wherever, to whoever it is, go to the police and report.
Kitungu says some key players in the construction value chain were being ignored in the taking of responsibility of poorly built buildings.
I think we are also coming up with another gap now, which we really must deal with. And the gap is what happens to the developer. Because we go to the site, like now, one of these sites we have already arrested some people. But you go and arrest the foreman. The developer is never part of it. So we have also to deal with the developer now.
He was speaking during the launch of the guidelines for safe homes following the signing of a memorandum of understanding between the Architectural Association of Kenya and Habitat for Humanity International to promote innovations in shelter, adoption and popularization of healthy housing best practices through research.
We actually have a building code that has been enforced and a new one is actually going to be rolled out, and most of these guidelines actually are captured in the new building code. So what will be pending to be done is that all professionals and stakeholders in the construction industry will just need to follow these guidelines to ensure that what we are churning out in terms of homes and ideally office spaces are healthy, and we're able to ensure that we have a better outlook in terms of our housing and our places of residence.
Alan Aoko, Lunchtime News.
The Anti-Counterfeit Authority has launched a recordation database system to help curb the influx of counterfeits. Local manufacturers will now be required to record their intellectual property through the system in efforts by the government to improve local production and domestic investments.
From next year, all local manufacturers and importers of goods manufactured outside Kenya will be required to record their intellectual property through a database system. This follows a launch of a recordation in a move aimed at curbing the influx of counterfeit goods.
Having a conversation around recordation because the setup date is going to be 1st of January, where all imported goods have to be put on the database. For locally manufactured, it is voluntary and it is free of charge. So this morning was an engagement to just iron out, to actually give them our commitment and our support, and to also give them comfort that this is the way we are going to fight counterfeiting.
That's how we are coming into this equation. Again, as I did indicate, we have about 40 government agencies operating the single window system. Since we came into this space, we've automated from about 14% of government agency export-import processes to about 95%. So basically we're saying that almost every other import-export process is now automated in this country, and it becomes very easy for you now to carry out trade in the country.
A multi-agency team will access the database for certain seizure operations. Alcoholic drinks and pharmaceuticals were reported to be the most affected sectors in the war against counterfeit. Owners of registered trademarks, copyrights and marks have been challenged to take action against those counterfeiting their products for streamlined and effective enforcement measures in combating the same.
It is important. This step is important but not sufficient, but is one of the steps for continuous improvement. So we will stand with ACA. We will work very closely with them to ensure that we work together and encourage our members to have their brands registered under this process.
Frederick Muki for Lunchtime News.
All right, this is a big one. 5G and eSIM-enabled gadgets are gaining popularity, with 8 out of 10 new smartphone buyers opting for handsets with the specs. Oppo product manager Ernest Egut says the new speed, which is 10 times faster than the popular 4G network, appeals to, among others, technopreneurs, and program developers.
Kenya has a higher mobile phone penetration than the global average. However, internet and social media access remains relatively low, both at below 60%. The demand by Kenyans for the latest technology is phenomenal, creating a ready market for manufacturers.
Kenya is one of the openings of the East African market and Africa at large. Very conducive market hub for both technology and hardware, and also the consumerism manner in Kenya is a little bit higher compared to other African countries.
And the main difference is actually the speeds and things like latency and all that. Like for actually 5G promises to give us speeds that are actually 10 times faster than what we had at with 4G, and we are looking at almost hitting almost 1,000 Mbps per second. Yeah. Things we could even do or hit with 4G. So the main difference basically just speeds, latency, and of course 5G promises a lot of things like a lot of connectivity, a lot of IoT, basically the things that 4G actually laid foundation for, and now 5G is there to actually grow in the coming years.
5G technology that supports internet speeds of up to 20 gigabits per second is popular across the globe.
Most of the consumers use smartphones for very basic needs, that is just calling and messaging. But a high number of clienteles right now are deviating towards internet calls, towards online gaming, towards streaming of videos online, and so on and so forth.
It means a lot for creativity, it means a lot for gamers, it means a lot for even just a normal smartphone user like me and you.
Tech experts say the high speeds are not necessarily reserved for those in the orange and digital economy, but even for household use.
Most of the people are moving towards digital employment. If I'm employed digitally, so I need a device that can give me faster upload speeds, right? Faster maybe download speeds, and faster connectivity.
He says the technology provides convenience, allowing you to download bulky footage within seconds. He says with telcos rolling out 5G services, phone makers are adjusting to this new trend, adding to the fast-paced Kenyan tech scene.
The future of 5G in Kenya is better internet connectivity, better global connection. You have your meetings here with somebody else from another different country, seamless connectivity, better opportunities in terms of digital work, digital employment, better opportunities in terms of clear detail of maybe data that you're going to share.
Hibak Said for Lunchtime News.
Across the borders, the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation says it was committing 7 billion shillings to African countries over the next 4 years, even as Bill Gates warned that the Ukraine crisis was reducing the amount of aid flowing to the continent. The foundation's pledge, which is up to 40% on the amount spent during the previous 4 years, will target projects tackling hunger, disease, poverty, and gender inequality. Here now are the details for this and other stories making headlines across Africa.
Nigeria, which is Africa's most populous country, will take the biggest share of the $7 billion. Humanitarian groups in Africa are grappling with the diversion of funding away towards Ukraine, and as Russia's invasion increases goods prices globally, impacting aid operations. Drought compounded by conflict and the COVID-19 pandemic has pushed more than 10 million people in Africa to the very brink of a hunger crisis. The United Nations says it expects famine to be declared in parts of Somalia this year. The foundation in 2021 gave charitable support of $6.7 billion and last week pledged $1.4 billion to help the world's smallholder farmers cope with the climate change. Meanwhile, Tunisia is seeking international partners for investment projects worth $3.2 billion. Said also signed a $200 million financing agreement with France that will help support the North African country's budget. Leaders of French-speaking countries gathered on a Tunisian island to discuss debt relief, migration, food and energy shortages amid a soaring cost of living crisis across Africa, Europe and the Middle East due to Russia's war on Ukraine. Finally, South African retail sales fell 0.6% year-on-year in September after rising by a revised 2.1% in August. Statistics South Africa figures show that on a month-on-month basis, sales were up 0.1%. The statistics agency says sales in the 3 months to the end of September were up 3.3% compared with the same period last year.
India has emerged as the second most coveted investment market after the United States for sovereign wealth funds and public pensions funds. Sovereign investors, which now manage $33 trillion in assets, have also seen a rapid rise in allocations to private markets. Through this development might start to slow with fixed income back in favor. Here now are the details of this and other stories making headlines across the globe.
According to Invesco's head of official institutions, Rod Ringrow, over the last 10 years, sovereign investors have invested with the wind at their backs thanks to the secular bull market that emerged from the global financial crisis. Average annual returns for sovereign investors over the past decade stood at 6.5% and the sovereign wealth funds alone at 10% in 2021. However, 2022 could prove to be a turning point with high inflation and tighter monetary policy hitting long-term expected returns. Elsewhere, European traders are rushing to fill tanks in the region with Russian diesel before a European Union ban begins in February, as alternative sources remain limited. By 5th of February 2023, the European Union will ban Russian oil product imports on which it relies heavily for its diesel. That will follow a ban on Russian crude taking effect in December. With few immediate cost-effects alternatives, diesel from Russia has made up 44% of Europe's total imports of the road fuel so far in November, compared to 39% in October. Finally, China has kept its benchmark leading rates unchanged for the third straight month as a weaker yuan and persistent capital outflows continue to limit Beijing's ability to ease monetary conditions to support the economy. Sluggish credit demand and a darkening growth outlook have prompted some traders and market analysts to predict a marginal reduction to the mortgage reference rate as early as next month to prop up the broader economy. As expected, the one-year loan prime rate was kept at 3.65%, while the 5-year loan prime rate was unchanged at 4.30%.
Time to play. Let's do Channel 1 Sports News. Senegal will be aiming to become the first African team to beat the Netherlands at the FIFA World Cup when the two teams meet today for the first time in history. Elsewhere, England is out to start their World Cup journey with a win against Iran today, this evening.
You know what it is. The Teranga Lions of Senegal will be aiming to maintain their record of avoiding defeat against European opposition in the World Cup group phase when they tackle the Dutch today. In another match, England captain Harry Kane will lead the Three Lions against Iran, with the team seeking to lift the trophy for the only second time in history. Elsewhere, Iran coach Carlos Queiroz believes England as the strongest team since they won the World Cup in 1966, calling Gareth Southgate's side a serious contenders to reach the final in Qatar.
This new generation that Southgate is bringing for the national team, in my opinion, is probably the most competitive English national team since 1966.
Finally, Wales will play their first World Cup match since 1958 when they face USA tonight.
Just a day after the 2022 World Cup kick-off, football fans who enjoyed the live coverage of the opening game between host Qatar and Ecuador on KBC Channel 1 have expressed their delight of watching that game from the comfort of their homes. With many more games to come, one Victor Kaberia has designed the national broadcaster's logo on a board with the FIFA 2022 World Cup logo to show his appreciation to KBC for bringing the matches live. Ecuador defeated host Qatar 2-0 in the opening game last night, and 3 more matches are on card today. England will open match